Hello, I'm Lisa Zamparo, and I'm a CPA and financial planner. I help my clients make smart decisions with money. I'm also a volunteer with CPA Canada Financial Literacy, and I'm here today to talk to you about the 10 healthy habits of financial management. Before you get started, let the audience know about any logistics for the day. For example, where the washrooms are or what the lunch arrangements are. You'll also let them know if they have a copy of the presentation with them or if you'll be handing it out at the end. This session is designed to be interactive, so please feel free to raise your hand if you have any questions. If you feel more comfortable waiting till the end, we'll have time for a short Q&A session then. Today we're going to talk about financial literacy and why it's so important. We're going to draw on work done by the Canadian Task Force of Financial Literacy and also some research undertaken by CPA Canada. When we look at the 10 healthy habits, you might find that you're already doing some of these things. And if so, congratulations, that's great. If not, I hope that this session is going to provide you with the tools and information that you'll need to help you getting on your way to getting your financial house in order. If you've ever struggled with financial problems brought on by bad habits or not knowing how to effectively manage your finances, you'll understand what a challenge this can be in your personal life and also in your relationships with the people closest to you. So how we're going to start today is by handing out a financial fitness assessment. I'll give you a few minutes to fill out this checklist, and then we'll take up the results in a few moments. At this point in the presentation, you'll want to hand out the Financial Fitness Self-Assessment Checklist. Give the audience a few minutes to answer the questions on the list, and when they're finished, debrief the exercise with them. Ask them how they felt about the results, and if they learned anything about themselves. The purpose of today's session is to help you become aware of the 10 healthy habits of financial management. These habits will help you get your financial house in order. If you're a parent, adopting these habits and displaying them to your children helps you act as a great role model for financial responsibility. The first of the 10 habits is to know where you stand financially. This habit is important because before you can figure out where you're going, you have to know where you're starting from. There are two key concepts in knowing where you stand. The first is called net worth, which means everything that you own less everything that you owe. The second concept to understand is cash flow. This is looking at all of the income or cash that you have coming in, less all of the money that you have going out. A great way to understand your cash flow is to use a budget, and a budget also helps you control the outflows. Managing your money is about making choices: where to spend, where to save, where to invest, and where to share. Making these choices helps you feel in control of your money. The second healthy habit is live within your means. Arguably, this is one of the most important lessons. A lot of people that have a budget say that they have good financial habits, but it's important not only to talk the talk, you need to walk the walk. This means don't spend more than you earn. And when we look at habit 3, we'll tell you how to do that. So the third habit is save or pay yourself first. What this means is that you can set up an automatic transfer from your checking to your savings account on every paycheck so that you're saving money without having to do it yourself. You can transfer this money to something like a registered retirement savings plan, an RRSP, or a tax-free savings account, a TFSA. You'll get used to living without this money. After you've done your savings, the next place that your money goes is to cover your overhead expenses. And that's for things like rent or your mortgage payment, utilities, groceries. Once you've covered all of your overheads, the last expense that you'll cover is your discretionary spending or your fun money. You might want to create a budget and call it entertainment or restaurants, or you can just know that whatever's left after your savings and your overhead is for you to spend on whatever you want. Discretionary spending is the easiest place to overspend, so it's really great to track this kind of spending on a regular basis. The fourth habit is understanding how to use credit responsibly. Credit is certainly a wonderful tool, but as I mentioned, it's only wonderful when you use it responsibly. It's certainly easier to use credit cards than to pay with cash or with checks, and having a credit card and using your credit responsibly builds a good credit history. That's important because with a good credit history, you can make large purchases on credit at a lower interest rate. Keep in mind, if you're going to use credit, you never want to take on more debt than you can bear financially, and you want to be able to keep up with the payments on a regular basis. On the topic of credit, let's talk about the difference between good debt and bad debt. Good debt is when you're using credit to purchase an asset, something that's going to be worth more in the future. For example, this could be a house, or even investing in your education. On the other hand, bad debt is used to purchase things that will be worth less in the future, for example, electronics or cars. These are the kind of purchases that are important to save up for in advance. When you purchase bad debt on credit, it can be very expensive when you factor in the interest cost. The fifth habit is setting up a financial safety net. This includes something like an emergency fund. Experts recommend that you save 3 to 6 months' expenses in cash in an emergency fund in case something happens, like perhaps you lose your job. They think it will take you about this much time to find a new job, so it'd be great to have that much cash so you don't have to worry about covering your expenses while you're looking for work. Having a financial safety net also means having the right insurance. For example, life insurance, disability insurance, critical illness, and insurance that protects your assets, like your home insurance or car insurance. The sixth habit is understanding the difference between wants versus needs. Needs are like your overhead expenses, the things that you need in life. Things like shelter, food, and clothing. Wants, on the other hand, are discretionary items. You'll want to understand the difference between needs and wants and not confuse the two. Sometimes, with all of the media exposure, we can be convinced that the things that we want are really things that we need. This can be dangerous if spending on all of our wants means that there's not enough money left over for the things that we need. The seventh habit talks about delayed gratification and values-based goal setting. Delayed gratification is a really important life skill. I want to share with you an experiment that was done called the marshmallow test. Researchers gathered a group of 4-year-olds and gave them each one marshmallow. They told them, "You can eat this one marshmallow now, but if you can wait a few minutes, we'll give you a second marshmallow." They then left the room and observed the behavior of the 4-year-olds. Their behavior typically fell into 2 categories. Some kids got really excited, grabbed the marshmallow, and ate it right away. The other group had a little bit more willpower, and they waited. Some of them would have to sit on their hands to not touch the marshmallow. Others closed their eyes so they weren't tempted by looking at it, and others even licked the table around the marshmallow but were careful not to touch it. The researchers then followed these children over the next 14 years, and they found that the kids who were considered the grabbers were more prone to envy and more easily frustrated. On the other hand, the kids who were the waiters found themselves to be more self-assertive and academically successful. The lesson that we learned from this research is that willpower is a really important life skill, and it will help you reach your goals, whether those goals are studying for exams instead of watching TV or saving money instead of spending. And on the topic of setting goals, it's much easier to stick with your goals if they're tied to your values. Ask yourself, what's really important to me? And when you link your goals with what's most important, you're more likely to have the willpower to stick with it and be successful. Continuing on the topic of goal setting, there are 2 things that I think are important to share. The first is, people who write down their goals are far more likely to succeed with them, as they're more committed to them. When you've written down your goals, they're easier to review them with others, and they're also easier to track, monitoring your progress against them. Success is self-reinforcing, meaning that the more progress you make towards your goals, the more committed you'll feel to continue acting on them. The second topic I want to mention is how important it is to use values to set your goals. So what are values? They're the things that are important to you, the things you're willing to take a stand for in life. What are your values? That's something that's very personal to you, and in a few moments we'll do an exercise to help you figure that out. When you're out and about, take a look at the people around you. You can certainly observe their values by looking at what they're wearing, how they choose to carry themselves, where they're coming to and going from. Values are intangible, but they're not invisible. So now I'm going to hand out a worksheet that will help you figure out exactly what your values are. At this point in the presentation, you'll hand out the Values Validator worksheet. Give the participants a few moments to fill out the worksheet. When they're done, you could ask them a question, such as, could you share some values of yours that you've discovered? When you're setting goals, it's important to set SMART goals. SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. The easiest way to understand SMART goals is for me to share an example with you. So, my goal is to take a trip to Australia. I'd like to take a 1-month trip to Australia. That makes it specific. On this trip, I'm going to spend $5,000 on my transportation and accommodations. Having a dollar figure makes it measurable. In order to spend only $5,000 and stay on my budget, I'm going to travel during the off-peak season, and I'm going to do a lot of research on low-cost options for accommodations. That makes it attainable. I'll need to save $400 a month in order to reach my savings requirement, and because I have a budget, I know that $400 a month of saving is realistic for me. To make it time-framed, I want to take this trip next year, so I have 1 year to do my savings. Now I'm going to hand out a goal-setting worksheet to help you figure out your own SMART goals. The 8th habit is track your spending. The purpose of this habit is to bring awareness to where your money is going. This is a great reality check for you to make sure you understand if your spending, in actuality, is the same as the spending that you think. For a lot of people, this is a big wake-up call. They're spending on things that they didn't realize they're spending on. A great way to track your spending is to actually write it down, and there's lots of different ways you could do this. If you prefer to keep handwritten notes, you could use a journal or a notebook. If you like to use the computer, Excel is a great tool. Or if you prefer, you can use an app on your smartphone. If you find it overwhelming to think about tracking all of your expenses, you might want to start with just a problem area. For example, the latte factor. The idea behind this is that small spending on a regular basis over a long period of time adds up to big dollars. Maybe for you it's not lattes. It could be something like taxis or lunches. You can use the feedback from this exercise to compare your actual spending back to your budget and make any tweaks to your budget if necessary. The 9th habit is to create a money network. This means you should choose the support of family and friends. Share your objectives and your plan, check in with them periodically, and help them with their financial management. Talking about money can be really difficult. In fact, it could be one of the most uncomfortable topics to discuss. But it's important to talk about it because the more we talk with others, the more that we can learn and support each other. It's important not only to ask for help, but also to be a role model and support for other people in your life. The last habit is to divide and conquer. Financial management can seem scary and complex, and so many of us avoid dealing with this part of our lives. The best way to overcome this is to start small. Break down what you need to do into manageable chunks. A great place to start is with debt if you have it. List out your debts and make a plan to make regular payments every month. Once your debt's under control, you can start thinking about saving for your savings needs. Things like your children's education, your retirement, or maybe a vacation you want to take in a few years. The key to success is breaking down the things that you need to learn into small chunks and creating your own unique education plan. You can use the internet and other resources like this presentation to teach yourself, but if you find that overwhelming, it's perfectly reasonable to ask for help, either from a financial professional or from someone that you know and trust. There can be a lot to learn, so keep in mind that you don't need to do it all at once. Adapt just one habit at a time. You'll find that with each habit that you take on, you'll gain more momentum and confidence in your ability. It's also important that you stay involved in this process. While you don't need to know everything about personal finance, you certainly need to understand the basic principles so that when you're working with a financial professional, you can feel confident having discussions with them, that you understand what they're talking about, and that you feel confident in the decisions that you make. Last, I would say, it's your money and your future. It's important to take responsibility for this. Now keep in mind, you don't need to climb the mountain in one go. If you take small steps, one after the other, eventually you will get to the top. Well, now that we've gone through all 10 of the healthy financial habits, I have some tools that I can share with you. In this session, we've already looked at 3 of the worksheets: the goal setting worksheet, financial fitness self-assessment, and the values validator worksheet. There's one more tool that you can access. We've provided a link to an online budget calculator in case you'd like some help getting started, creating your budget, and managing your cash flow. There are so many great resources out there to help you learn about financial literacy. Here are a few that are recommended by CPA Canada. At this point in the presentation, you'll open the floor for question and answers. Keep in mind, if somebody asks you a question that you're not sure what the answer is, it's perfectly acceptable to tell them that you're not sure. You can either get their contact information and follow up with them, or you can suggest that they contact their financial advisor for more personalized information. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope that this session has been informative and helped you understand some healthy habits that you can implement to manage your finances more effectively. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.